Hey guys, and welcome into another episode of Papa J's Chalkboard. This is a series that I'm doing where I kind of just rank different things, do different things with different stuff, and kind of put it all in one. And just kind of my catchy name for it. So if you guys are new to the channel, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and be sure to like the video if you do enjoy. You can wait till the end if you'd like, but it does very much help me out in the algorithms and such. And this is going to go through every single team. It's going to go Madden format, so it's going to start from the Bears, end up with the Vikings. But yeah, so this is everybody I think is every team's kind of breakout player for 2020. Somebody that I think that is going to have the best year of their career. It's going to be different for each scenario. And there's going to be some rookies. There's going to be some guys that are better in some certain forms. There's going to be guys who are already pretty close to stardom that are going to reach that. It's different things, and we'll talk about them each when we get there. But, of course, as always, I want you guys to leave comments in the below on who you think is a guy on your team that maybe I missed that you think is going to be a breakout star. If you agree with it, if you disagree with it, let me know in the comment section below. And, of course, let everybody see it, share the video with your friends, and see if they agree or not. But we'll get right ahead and start with it with the Chicago Bears. Going over to the Chicago Bears, we have Anthony Miller, the wide receiver for them. Before I get too much deeper into it, this isn't going to be something where it's like, well, last year he had 600 yards, so this year I think he's going to get 7. No, I'm not going to be going. It's strictly off of my beliefs. It's not going to be backed by statistics. It's not going to be backed behind anything except for my personal opinion. And that's what it is my personal opinion, and I'm glad that you guys are watching it. If you're hearing this, then you know that this is going to be my personal opinion. But Anthony Miller, he's primed to be in the best situation he's ever been in because there's going to be QB competition. It's going to be Foles. It's going to be Trubisky. Whatever it's going to be, there's going to be competition, and that is going to elevate this team because they're ready to go. The quarterbacks are fighting, and they're going to be playing their best football because they want the starting job. I mean, what quarterback doesn't? When you look at the amount of targets Allen Robinson got last year, it was absolutely insane. I think Matt Nagy is on the hot seat. Personally, I am not a big fan of what Nagy has done for the Bears. I think he's the biggest reason why Trubisky's career has kind of fallen to where it is, besides Trubisky underperforming. But, Anthony Miller is a guy who he should reap the benefits. Allen Robinson obviously is going to be getting a lot of coverage from the defensive sides because of how many targets he gets, how many receptions he gets, and that's going to leave space for a guy like Anthony Miller. They let go of Taylor Gabriel, which was a great move for them. They made a bunch of bad deals. Trey Burton's gone. Obviously, they replaced that with Jimmy Graham and about 40 other tight ends, but I think Anthony Miller is going to reap the best benefits from this offense. I think they're going to scheme around him. He's still very young. He still has a lot of potential left in there. There's no writing him off yet. I think this is kind of his last year to prove something before they really have to hone in on, hey, we need a wide receiver, and they can look at a guy like a Rondale Moore or a Jamar Chase in the next year's draft. But Anthony Miller, I think, is a good pick here for the Bears to break out in 2020 into a solid role. Going into the Cincinnati Bengals now, we could go with the easy one. We could say it's going to be Joe Burrow, right? We could even say it's T. Higgins. We could, there's a lot of different things. I was thinking about Trey Waynes here as well, but overall, I'm going to go with a guy in Jonah Williams. Now, he was drafted pretty high last year. I think it was like a 12th or 13th pick or something like that. But he did not play last season, pretty much at all, because he was injured, and that sucks. But Jonah Williams is a versatile offensive lineman, and I think that he's most likely, right now they have him on the left tackle spot for their depth chart. That's obviously prone to change depending on how it goes, but when you look at what the Bengals need, it is going to be help on the offensive line. They tried a bunch of different things this offseason. We'll see how they all mesh together. But when you look at what Jonah Williams is going to do for them, especially if he's playing that left tackle, he's going to be protecting the blind side of Joe Burrow. And now with this offense being back, Joe Mixon should be a beast. A.J. Green has T. Higgins. They have Burrow throwing the ball to them, Tyler Boyd, Auden Tate. I mean, they have a very solid offense to where not only is Jonah Williams, I think, going to be a key factor in protecting Burrow so he can get these weapons, but I think Burrow's ability to throw under pressure and the amount of weapons they have around them is going to make Jonah Williams look that much better as well. So I think this is a kind of a match made in heaven. I think that he's going to be able to hold his own. I'm a very big believer in what he was as a prospect because I did like him a lot coming out of Alabama. So Jonah Williams is going to be a very, very good left tackle for a long time for these Bengals, and I think it's going to start here in 2020. Going into Buffalo, I have Dawson Knox, the tight end here, and it's a pretty simple equation here. There's going to be a lot of coverage on Stephon Diggs. John Brown was already a kind of weapon for them because of how he fits in this offense, but the passing attack is absolutely nuts for this Buffalo Bills team. And obviously they have a good running game in Devin Singletary. They drafted Zach Moss, but with Josh Allen's ability to throw the ball downfield and well, having a speedy tight end like Dawson Knox is very good and very useful. The times that he got the ball last year, he looked very good with it. It's just he wasn't able to carve out a pretty much for sure role. But this year I think he is. I think he's going to be the starting tight end. I don't think there's a way he loses that job. So I'm very excited to see what Dawson Knox does with it. I think that he's going to become one of the better tight ends that we have in the NFL, as a lot of these older tight ends are fizzling out, Jimmy Graham, Greg Olsen, etc. So I think that Dawson Knox is going to be in that new wave of tight ends with the Noah Fants, the TJ Hawkinsons of the world. I'm very excited to see what this kid can do with Josh Allen's rocket arm. For the Denver Broncos, who else would it be? Drew Locke, quarterback for the Broncos. Now, he had a very good showing for the games that he was the starter last year, and I think he's going to progress into that as well. Everybody is looking at this Broncos team and saying, hey, they could do something this year. This is a team that I personally think is going to make the playoffs. I think this is a very solid roster. What they did on the defense is very underlooked, getting Bouye for nothing, getting Jarrell Casey for nothing. I'm very excited to see what they do, but adding Jerry Jeudy, adding KJ Hamler, you already have Cortland Sutton, adding Melvin Gordon to Phillip Lindsay as a duo. It's way better than Royce Freeman and Lindsay as a duo. You have Noah Fant, who's coming off of a pretty solid rookie year. Offensive line's grabbing a little bit better than it used to be. I think that Drew Lock is poised to be in a solid scenario to become one of the better quarterbacks in that sophomore year. I don't think he's going to have a sophomore slump. I think he's going to blossom here into a solid quarterback. Cleveland Browns. Now, this one pains me because it's one of those things where it's like the teams that are always getting talked about in the media because for whatever reasons, this gives them another reason to be talked about. They got an absolute steal in Grant Delpit at pick in the second round at pick 44. This was a guy who should have been a top 10 pick. His last season that he had at LSU just wasn't up to par with what he did the year before, but the talent is very much there, and I think that at the NFL level, he's going to be back to his junior year more than his last year. So when you look at what Delpit's going to be doing, I'm very excited to see what he does in the NFL. It sucks that he's going to be for the Browns because we already know how much talk the Browns get with Odell and Baker and stuff like that. So it's definitely going to be more and more talked about with Grant Delpit. Oh, how do all these teams pass on Grant Delpit? That's very much what I'm believing is going to happen pretty much right away. I see this guy as an absolute beast of a safety. I think he's going to be able to hold that defense up a lot this year and some tough competition. And we'll see what he can do. But I'm a very big believer in what Grant Delpit can do at the next level. Browns fans, you guys got to steal, and you're pretty much prone to that by now. That drafting is not the strong suit, but I think this was a very solid pick here at 44. Going into Tampa Bay, whatever you want to call it now, I'm going with Devon White. Now, Devon White's a guy who already showed flashes of being a very, very, very good linebacker. And I think he's going to take that next step to being a top linebacker in the league this year. He didn't play all last season. Obviously, there was injuries and stuff like that. He wasn't completely out there 100% of the time. Obviously, Levante David's still there, so he's getting a lot more shine and stuff, but Devon White's a beast, man. He was drafted top 5 for a reason, and it's going to show, especially coming into this year. There's some other guys I thought about here. Maybe Ronald Jones would be somebody to look at on the defensive side, maybe Jamel Dean or somebody, but I really was looking at seeing, Devon White, when you're talking, if you ask somebody, hey, you're not from Tampa Bay, name 10 linebackers off the top of your head. Pretty much no one's going to name Devon White. And I think that's definitely going to change after this season. He is an absolute beast. He's a beast of a prospect, and he's going to be even great in the NFL. I can't wait to see what he does this year. Staying at the position, we're going to go to Indianapolis and talk about Bobby Okereke. Now, if you don't know who Bobby Okereke is, you probably are like, man, where did I have heard that name? Well, during the draft, Pat McAfee announced the pick for the Indianapolis Colts, and we all know how Pat McAfee is. He's a goofball. So he was saying future Hall of Famer Bobby Okereke, but the dude had a really good rookie season. I think PFF had him as the highest graded linebacker. I personally hate PFF, and I would hold, if I heard someone say that in a video I was watching, I'd be like, well, this is stupid. Why would they even add that in? But just to throw it out there for anyone that likes it, Okereke has a lot of solid traits, and being on a linebacking core with the Maniac, Darius Leonard, they add DeForest Buckner from the 49ers. This is a team that's looking pretty nice. They had Phillip Rivers. It looks like they're kind of going for that, go for the bowl or bust this year. And I don't know if it's really going to work. I don't think the team has a full roster like that. But they have a very solid team, and I'm excited to see what they can do here. So Okereke, I think, can make that jump from being just an average, below average starting linebacker to a very, very good starting linebacker. Now we go over to Arizona, and who else could it be? Isaiah Simmons, one of the most hyped up prospects we have ever seen, coming from when the national championship was raised till draft day. I mean, this is a guy who plays any position on the defense. I think they're going to play him at linebacker. They could play him more at safety, but we'll see what they do. I really like what he's going to be able to do. He's going to be able to be a freak on that defense. You know, he has a guy like him in Jordan Hicks where they're quick with their feet. They're able to play on the ball. Simmons is very much like that, so he's going to blossom from Hicks. But this defense is very low-key scary. They added Campbell from the Campbell from the Falcons. I couldn't say Falcons for some reason. They still have Chandler Jones, obviously. Jordan Hicks. They add Devon Kennard. Patrick Peterson's going to be fully there. Byron Murphy's still there. Buda Baker's still there. I mean, this is a very good defense to be, along with the offense adding Hopkins. So just an absolute fun team to watch this year. DeAndre Hopkins, Isaiah Simmons. I mean, this is going to be a entertaining bunch of players. So I can't wait to see what Isaiah Simmons does. I think he's going to hit the ground running at the NFL level. Going to the LA Chargers, this was a little bit of a harder one. I ended up sticking with Mike Williams here. Now you're looking at him saying, like, you know, Jayden, Mike Williams is a pretty solid wide receiver. Like, he's really good. Well, he's not great, and I think that that's something he can address this year. The offense really took a big hit, losing Melvin Gordon, not really having any wide receiver depth behind Williams and Keenan Allen. I think that's going to change. Tyrod Taylor being the quarterback, I think he's going to be able to get Mike Williams some good looks, and especially if they throw Herbert out there at any time this year, Herbert's going to be able to air the ball out to Mike Williams where he can make plays. I remember Mike Williams coming out of college. I was like in awe at how great of a prospect this guy was coming out. I was like, there's no way this guy doesn't become the next like Julio Jones, next this, and he really hasn't. Now I'm not saying he's going to do that in 2020, but I'm going to say that I think Mike Williams will be feared once again like he was at Clemson this year. I think he's going to be a guy where, hey, I mean, he's still a young guy. Injuries have hurt him a little bit, but he's still pretty young for an NFL player. He's got a lot of time left in this league. I think that this is going to be his breakout year to where teams are really going to scheme around, hey, how do we stop Mike Williams and Keenan Allen? But besides, how do we stop Keenan Allen and focus on Mike Williams? I think that Mike Williams is going to take that step. So I'm excited to see what they did. They did pick up his fifth-year option, so I'm excited to see what happens this year with Mike Williams and the LA Chargers. The Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champions, congratulations. They had a couple good players here that I was thinking of doing. Ended up sticking with Willie Gay Jr. here. This is a guy who is going to be taking over a linebacker core, which really has gotten away with being average for the past few years. You know, they've had like Hitchens and stuff. They had guys that really haven't made other rosters, but have made a home in Kansas City. Mostly because that front seven has been able, or the front four has really been able to do a lot for this team, to where, you know, the linebackers really haven't been as apparent. They really are able to be seen through. They're not really too big, but Willie Gay Jr. is a guy who is going to be able to disrupt on the defensive side. Pass coverage, of course, obviously, he's going to be able to use his speed there, but he can also get around the edge. He can break through the line. He can make a good hit, strip sacks, whatever you need him to do. I think this guy's an all-around talent. Getting him in late second was a very good pick for the Chiefs. I'm excited to see what this Chiefs team does as they look to repeat as Super Bowl champions. Going to the Dallas Cowboys, Blake Jarwin's going to be my selection here. The tight end has been stuck behind freaking Jason Witten. I couldn't say his name. I said Blake Jarwin. Jason Witten for too long now. He really hasn't had his chance to shine, but he's shown a lot of flashes of being a very solid tight end. And now in an offense where they add a CeeDee Lamb to it, along with Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott, Michael Gallup, you know the whole gist. I mean, Blake Jarwin is in a poised position to, hey, he's really not going to have anybody on him because they're going to be focused on how do we stop CeeDee Lamb, Gallup, and Cooper, as well as protect ourselves from Ezekiel Elliott's run game. So Jarwin's going to be able to sneak free for a lot of open looks. It's a lot of his touchdowns seem like, how the hell did he get wide open? Well, it's because there's a lot of things to worry about on that Dallas Cowboys offense. So I think that Blake Jarwin, no matter who is the quarterback come week one, I think he's going to be able to get a lot of good looks here. So I'm excited to see what Blake Jarwin does here in the new Mike McCarthy offense. Then we got over to the Miami Dolphins. I got Christian Wilkins here. He had a, all right rookie year. He really wasn't disruptive like we thought he was going to be. I think Dolphins fans really were hoping for a little bit more from Wilkins. He was more of a plug-the-hole kind of guy instead of a, getting tackles, sacks, and stuff like that. I think he might have had one sack this last season, but I think this is a year where he's going to be poised to make a breakout, mostly because of the moves that was made around. He has a defensive-minded coach, but they add guys like Kyle Van Noy. They add help in the secondary with Igbinoghene and Byron Jones, along with Xavier Howard there. It would be awesome if Minka Fitzpatrick was still there, but it's trade-off for getting more draft assets and et cetera. But I think Wilkins now with talent around him on this defense is going to be able to do a lot more. He really was one of the focal points for offensive linemen to stop, and that's really weird because he is just a rookie. Usually they don't focus on rookies too much, but there wasn't too much else on the defensive line that was worth really taking out of the game. They don't have a DeMarcus Lawrence or an Aaron Donald type player. Well, now they have guys on that defensive line in that front seven that are able to get through. There's a lot more to worry about than just Christian Wilkins. So now Christian Wilkins, I think he can win some one-on-ones, make a lot of plays, pad those stats a little bit more than he did last year, and be poised to have a very good season here for the Miami Dolphins. Myles Sanders is the pick for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think every Eagles fan was probably already seeing this, so I'm sorry to disappoint. If you're an Eagles fan, you clicked on this video hoping it was somebody else. It is still going to be Myles Sanders. This guy is an absolute stud in pass catching, and it's going to fit this offense. They've built a track team in Philadelphia. How good is it going to work? We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with Carson Wentz. We know injuries usually bug his career, but hopefully he does stay healthy. He played 16 games last year, which is good, but he did end the year on injury. Myles Sanders, though, very, very good running back. He is the second best Penn State running back in the division, but it's cool to see Myles Sanders and his or Saquon Barkley and his predecessor in Myles Sanders both competing very highly at the NFC East level. I'm excited to see what Sanders can do this year. I think he's poised for a breakout year. In Atlanta, I'm sticking on an offensive lineman here in Chris Lynch. Now, this guy missed a lot of time last year after being, I believe, a first-round pick. Middle first-round pick the year before, and, people were wondering, Falcons just keep missing on offensive linemen. McGarry really came out, didn't really show too much for what we thought he would be, hopefully. I mean, it was a reach on draft day, but you were hoping he could be something. But Lindstrom, when he came back from injury, I think they went 4-1 in those games. He was very good in protection. I think he has a lot of potential. So going away from a guy who was injured and people kind of forgot they drafted, I think he's going to put his name on the map as somebody who is a very solid starting right guard and will progress even further. But I think his breakout year will be 2020, fully healthy season. I think that he's going to be doing great. So Chris Lindstrom's my pick. For the San Francisco 49ers, it's going to be their second rookie, Brandon Aiyuk. Now, I wanted to pick Kinlaw, but in reality, I don't think there's anybody that thinks Kinlaw is not going to be a good player in 2020. So for him to break out, he would have to be an absolute monster. I don't know if I'm ready to say that about him yet, but Brandon Aiyuk, he doesn't really have the most expectations because a lot of the nation doesn't even really know about him. I mean, I know in Madden, when you can download the draft classes, there was a draft class a couple of days before the draft. I was doing a rebuild, or I was doing something, and I downloaded the draft class, and they didn't even have Brandon Aiyuk as a prospect. And that was so weird to me because I'm like, the draft's in a couple of days, and he's like a first-round grade for me. So obviously, going to ASU, I know what Aiyuk is capable of, but when you look at what Aiyuk is able to do, if you haven't noticed, he's got a lot of speed, especially in the games. He's an amazing returner. He's got great hands. His ball movement, his ball skills are impeccable. And when you look at where Emmanuel Sanders has migrated down to the south, where he resides now in Louisiana, with Michael Thomas, obviously, which is an absolute beast of a tandem. Aiyuk's got a lot of options to get some reps here. Right now, he's behind Kendrick Bourne and Deebo Samuel on the depth chart, but I think him and Samuel are going to make an absolute great combo for a long time coming. This is a guy who's going to add a lot to this offense, kind of give you another Deebo Samuel type player, and I think that's exactly what's going to fit perfectly because as we saw last year, Deebo Samuel was a mastermind of this offense, and he was a big reason why they were in the Super Bowl. So Aiyuk being added to the 49ers, Garoppolo's got himself a new weapon. I'm excited to see what he does in San Francisco. Now, for the New York Giants, I thought long and hard about this one because there's a lot of guys. There's a linebacker, Ryan Conley, who is a very good player. There's tight end Caden Smith, who had a very good year last year when Evan Ingram went down due to injury. There's just Dexter Lawrence could be a star next year. Daniel Jones can elevate, and I think he will. But overall, I'm going to give the nod to a guy who's been on the team for a few years now, hasn't made that jump yet. I think it's his time, and that's Lorenzo Carter. He has spent, I think, 2 or 3 years. I think it's 3 years now. I think this is his third season he's going into. I believe it's his third season. But he has shown that he has a lot of speed. He's shown flashes of things he can do, but he's never been consistent, and I mean never. And I need that consistency from him. When you look at what the Giants have built, though, for this team, defensive line is built with fat boys, and I'm talking thickies. We've got Dexter Lawrence, Dalvin Tomlinson, Leonard Williams, plug in those holes, plug in the middle. When you have a guy like Lorenzo Carter, who is just a massive human being, but runs a sub 4.4, it seems like, in the 40, I mean, this guy is, I think if you put him in a foot race with Saquon Barkley, it's possible that he wins, and that's insane to me. But Carter's speed, especially off the edge, but just in general, is so dominant that speed kills in today's day and age in the NFL. So to have those fat boys taking up pretty much all five offensive linemen, to have Lorenzo Carter match up with tight ends and stuff on the edge, Marcus Golden's not on the team right now, unless the Giants make a move for like an Everson Griffin or something like that. I think that them not drafting an edge rusher in the first few rounds really showed faith in Lorenzo Carter and O'Shane Ximines, but I think Lorenzo Carter is obviously going to get that starting nod. I think this is his year to break out, and I'm excited to see what he can do for the Giants in 2020. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, a little bit of a weird one here. I think it's going to be Gardner Minshew. Now, why I picked Gardner Minshew over a lot of other players that are capable of breaking out is because people are just expecting and saying, oh, what are the Jaguars going to do at quarterback next year? Are they going to draft? Who are they going to draft in the next year's draft? Oh, is Cam Newton going to sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars? Well, hold your horses, everybody. Gardner Minshew is still in Florida. He is still the quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And need I remind you that before he was benched for Nick Foles, when Nick Foles came back, he was lighting the league on fire. He was doing so well. There was plays he was making that most quarterbacks don't make. And now you're giving him a full offseason to study and actually play to be the starter. I mean, this is a guy who's got that fire in him. He doesn't want to be replaced. Why would he not want to be the starting quarterback of a team that actually showed faith in him? They were giving mustaches out. I mean, they were riding the Minshew wave, and I love that. And I think that he is the perfect quarterback for this team to be the face of this franchise as they try and rebuild. Him and DJ Chark, hopefully they can hold on to Fournette, but there's different things that they've been adding that have been very good. I love Minshew as a quarterback. I think that with him knowing that everybody's just expecting, Trevor Lawrence or Cam Newton or somebody to take his job, he's going to go out there and he's going to ball out. And I cannot wait to see what Gardner Minshew can do. I'm excited to see him again as a starting quarterback for this Jacksonville Jaguars team. The New York Jets, it's going to be Chris Herndon. And this seems like a broken record at this point. I had high expectations for him last year before he was suspended. And then when he came back from suspension, got injured. So I'm going to act like that year did not happen. But this guy has the unlimited potential that you want at a tight end position. I think that there's no doubt in hell that he is going to be the starting tight end when it all comes to fruition. It's all said and done. But I'm excited to see what Herndon can do. This guy has the athletic traits. He's got the hands. He's got the big frame. He is able to make plays on the ball. He's able to be a very, very good tight end at this next level. It's just a matter of time of, is he going to reach that potential? Is he going to not get suspended anymore? Is he going to be healthy? If those things are true, he's not going to be hurt. He is going to be on the field. There's no reason Chris Herndon does not take over this very young Jets team, especially when you have a lot of people worrying about this run game. He could leak out. He can get some great passes in. I think he can break out as long as something not in the realm of football inside the field happens. I think that this guy's poised for a breakout. Going over to Detroit, it's going to be DeAndre Swift, the running back that they took in the second round. This guy should have went to the first round, in my opinion. Him and Jonathan Taylor are both first-round grades, but for him to land in Detroit, the more and more it keeps going, it's a perfect situation. Now, I don't think that Kerryon should have lost his job, but it's pretty much apparent that he's lost his job. I think DeAndre Swift's going to fit perfectly in there. I think that what he's able to do for an offense, his pass catching ability as well as his running ability, is going to be great. So I'm very excited to see what DeAndre Swift can do. I'm just very excited to see what this Lions team does, especially with Matt Stafford back. But Swift is going to be a very good running back for a very long time, and we're going to see it right away in 2020. For the Green Bay Packers, this is a tough one. I was sitting and looking at this roster, and I really could not come with a guy who I really think is going to break out. But I'm going to take Allen Lazard, the wide receiver, who is poised to be the number 2 coming into this year. Aaron Rodgers has thrown to him a ton of times, and he's made him kind of one of his favorite targets while Tay Adams was out with that turf toe injury. But when you look at what Lazard can do, he's a deep ball threat. He's got good hands. I think that this is a year where he's going to be able to do a lot with the football. Aaron Rodgers is trying to be the best quarterback he can be while he's still the quarterback in Green Bay. And that's going to involve a lot of Allen Lazard while Devontae Adams is probably double covered. I think that this guy, not many people know of Lazard. Maybe you do as a fantasy owner or if you're a Packers fan, but I think a lot of people are going to know who he is, and he might even earn himself a contract down the line for another team being a number 2 or a number 1 for another team. I don't think that he's going to break out and be one of the best receivers in the NFL, but I think he's going to be that Michael Gallup role. I think that he's going to have that Michael Gallup jump where people now know who Michael Gallup is due to last year. Going to Carolina Panthers, I'm taking Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State. I'm taking him over Derek Brown because I think we all know Derek Brown's going to be a beast. At least I think that. There's a lot of other players that are able to break out. I'm a big Deante Jackson guy, but Gross-Matos should not have been there in the second round. And for him to keep falling all the way to 38, obviously it wasn't a deep fall, but for the Panthers to get him with Derek Brown, with Brian Burns, this is going to be a scary defensive line for the Panthers, and they're all basically rookies. Obviously Brian Burns 1 year out. But Gross-Matos, he has speed off the edge. He is physically just dynamic, dominant as just a beast. I mean, look at the dude. I mean, he is jacked. He is huge, and he's quick. I mean, this is a guy who is going to be a beast off the edge. I'm very excited to see his NFL career and how it pans out. I think he's in a perfect scenario here in Carolina. Going to New England Patriots, it's going to be Nikhil Harry. Now, if there's anybody with lower expectations than Nikhil Harry, you let me know. But Nikhil Harry has pretty much been written off by everybody else. Oh, he's a draft bust. He's this, he's that. When you actually sit down and you look at how the last season went for Nikhil Harry, you realize it's not really his control. He spent 8 weeks on the IR due to an injury. He rehabbed it back. He came back healthy, had a couple great games, great plays. He had a couple touchdowns get called back. You know, when he was on the field and he was catching the ball, he was making athletic plays. He was doing crisp routes. He was playing at a very good level. The problem is that injury kind of limited his snaps, and I think that there's things that the media doesn't really get to talk about, like players being on a limited snap count when they're not, it's not an Alvin Kamara type player. It's not this superstar player, So Nikhil Harry, I don't think they wanted him out there for too much because they spent a first-round pick on him. They want to protect their investment. The Patriots have never been a team to rush a player because they want to see what he is. No, they're willing to take however long they want. So that's why you saw a lot of Jacoby Myers last year over Nikhil Harry. That's why you saw them trade for Sanu, because they wanted somebody now. Even though they knew Nikhil Harry was going to come back, they spent that capital on Sanu because they knew, hey, we need somebody for now because we want to protect our investment, and that's what it's going to come out to this year. So now, with Stidham, Hoyer, whoever they want to throw at quarterback, Nikhil Harry is going to be arguably the number one target for them. He's a physical receiver. He's able to jump ball. He's able to he has one of the best hands I've ever seen from a prospect, and that's, high praise because there's a lot of good prospects that have come out in the past 5 years. But Nikhil Harry has insane hands. He can make incredible grabs. He's athletic. He's quick. I really like what Nikhil Harry has from the NFL level, and you cannot write a guy off on 1 year. He is poised to be a breakout player for the Patriots this season. Washington Redskins is Chase Young. I don't even have to talk about it anymore. It's Chase Young. I mean, this team, I'm not a big believer in Dwayne Haskins. Don't think he's a breakout. Darius Guy steals with the injury. I'm not comfortable with the backfield. Not really anybody at the receiver, maybe Steven Simmons, but nobody too crazy. McLaurin's already kind of broken out. When you look at the defense, though, Chase Young is going to a defensive line that was already good. And now they add Chase Young. I mean, this guy is in a perfect situation. I'm excited to see what Chase Young can do for the Redskins. Jonathan Abram here for the Las Vegas Raiders. It says wide receiver. That's my apologies. Should say safety there. But he was a first-round pick, and people forget that. I mean, this is a guy who is an absolute beast. If you watched Hard Knocks at all last year, you saw that this guy is a headhunter. He just wants to go out there and hit people. You saw the relationship that him and John Gruden had. They're very much football guys. They really like what one another bring. And they let Carl Joseph go. He's now a member of the Browns, I think. So Jonathan Abram is going to be probably the starting safety week 1. And I'm excited to see what he is because, like I said, he's a headhunter. He's an old-school guy where he's going to go and hit some people. He's going to blitz the gaps. He's going to make plays. And I'm excited to see what that does. I think that people have kind of forgotten that Jonathan Abram exists. I think that people all around just kind of don't know about him. So for him to make a name for himself this year, it's not going to be too hard. He just has to play decently. And I think that Jonathan Abram is definitely going to do that. So I'm excited to see what Abram can do. I'm excited for this whole Las Vegas journey that we're going to be going on in the 2020 season. Going over to the LA Rams and their disgusting new logo and everything, but that's a story for another day. Tyler Higbee, the tight end, he had one of the best second halves of the year that you ever seen. I think he had like 500 yards in a matter of 4 games, the last 4 games or something like that. He really, they were using a lot of Everett in the earlier stages. The team just wasn't performing, and then the very last few weeks, Higbee bursted onto the scene, and he was just getting targeted after targeted. I think he had like 5 straight games with over double-digit targets. I mean, Higbee was turning out to be very good, and a lot of that is obviously the targets and everything, but this is a guy who I think can break out this year. He's going to be the starting tight end. They paid him a very hefty bag for a guy who hasn't really shown much prior to that, but obviously they believe in what they've seen, and I'm excited to see what Tyler Higbee is going to bring to this LA Rams team. Now going over to the Baltimore Ravens, I have Myles Boykin actually being the breakout here for the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson's already broken out. J.K. Dobbins, I think, is a year away from being a breakout. The defensive side, I wanted to take Patrick Queen. If you're a fan of the channel, you know how much I like Patrick Queen as a prospect. But I'm taking Boykin. A lot of the frame is going to be on Hollywood Brown, and will he make that next step? Will he make that next step? Well, whether he makes it or not, he's going to be the focal point of the passing offense because his speed kills, and obviously he is the number one there. Lamar Jackson and him are kind of always just going to be partnered together because of their flashiness, I guess is what you'd say. So Myles Boykin's a guy who's probably going to get forgotten about. He's probably going to be the wide receiver 2 or 3, depending on where they put Snead. He's going to make a lot of good, solid plays. I think he's going to be a very good route runner. He's not going to give you the flash that a guy like Hollywood Brown will do, but he's going to be a very productive guy. And especially in a year where Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are saying they're going to want to pass more, they're going to want to tone down Lamar's running, they're going to want to kind of make themselves just a better offense as a whole, not just the Lamar Jackson show, which obviously I'm okay with. I'm a dynasty owner of Lamar Jackson, so I'm cool with him being as dynamic as he wants to be. But Myles Boykin's going to be a guy who's going to reap the benefits for a lot of that. They let go of Hayden Hurst as well, which obviously doesn't sound like much, but that is a couple targets that are going to be able to be shown around more. I like Myles Boykin this year. I think he's going to be a very good receptions guy. And for your fantasy owners, this could be a guy where you're going to want to pick him up pretty soon with some fab dollars. Now for the New Orleans Saints, it's going to be defensive end Marcus Davenport. It's pretty simple. This guy has to break out this year. This is kind of his last year to break out, and he has the best defense around him and the best team around him I think that he's had to date. I mean, this team is absolutely loaded. They have a pretty solid secondary behind him now. Malcolm Jenkins there, Janoris Jenkins there as well. Linebackers are pretty solid. They could use a little bit of a upgrade, but Marcus Davenport's got to break out this year, and I think he can. It's just a matter of time. So hopefully he can do it this year. I'm excited to see what Davenport does. For the Seattle Seahawks, it's going to be Jordan Brooks. Now, did I want it to be Jordan Brooks? Hell no. I looked for any other person to actually pick other than Jordan Brooks, and I couldn't do it. So Jordan Brooks is going to be it. Now, kind of like the Nikhil Harry situation, can you think of anyone else with lower expectations on the Seahawks than Jordan Brooks? Because I can't. This guy should not have been picked in the first round, maybe not even the second round, but they took him in the first round over Patrick Queen. And they liked his speed. They liked him at the outside position. I mean, it's kind of weird for the pick, but this guy has little to no expectations. And I think that if he goes out there as a starter and just has a very good year, that's a breakout right there. People are expecting nothing. It's going to at least show that the pick was worth it. Seahawks don't usually pick in the first round, and we'll see after this season if they should have or not. Now for the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's going to be Deante Johnson. I think that he just had a very good season his rookie year, and I'm willing to bet that he's going to even show more promise with Big Ben back there in the pocket. Juju Smith is going to see a lot more targets as well, but obviously he's going to be the focal point for defenses to stop because him and Big Ben have already had a connection. Deante Johnson, I think, can reap the benefits of those tight battles that Juju's going to have with corners. Deante Johnson's going to be a guy who's going to be able to break open and free from his man, so Big Ben can find himself a new favorite target in Deante Johnson. I'm excited to see what this guy can do. He's shown a lot of good flashes last year. I wasn't high on him last year, but he proved me wrong during the NFL season, so I think that he's going to be a very good player this year. I see him being a breakout candidate. Going over to Houston, it's going to be Will Fuller. I mean, this guy has been riddled with injuries, and now it's his time to shine. He is the wide receiver number one for the Houston Texans, which it really sucks that we were robbed of however many years of Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins action. Because when Will Fuller is on the field, he is an absolute beast. And he is just so much fun to watch. He's so fast. You know how Will Fuller is. He's fast, he's got hands, he's athletic. I mean, everything you want. So it's kind of like the Keenan Allen effect, where people were starting to write Keenan Allen off, where it's like, hey, it's been 2 years, he's injured, he's never going to get better. Well, Will Fuller's been injured for the past 2 years, and I'm willing to bet he might have that same thing that happened to Keenan Allen. He not only gets better healthy-wise, but he's going to get a lot better form-wise. I mean, being the wide receiver one, he's going to have to make a lot of plays, and I think that he can do it. Him and Deshaun Watson are going to have that connection that him and Hopkins have, and I'm poised for him to have a breakout year. I'm excited for him to have a breakout year. So, Will Fuller, I can't wait to see what you do on Sundays, Mondays, and sometimes Thursdays. For the Tennessee Titans, it's going to be Corey Davis. Now, this is a weird one for a lot of people because, A.J. Brown broke out last year, and he is now the number one. So now Corey Davis is the number two. And I think that's perfect for Corey Davis. This guy was drafted high, obviously, in a very weird draft class. But you look at what the Titans have had prior to now. pretty bad team. The offense really was just him. There was no really any wide receivers around him. Delanie Walker was not only fighting injuries, but he just wasn't the same Delanie Walker we've used to being throughout his career. They've had a subpar quarterback in Mariota that they invested a second-round pick in, so he had to play. Even then, Derrick Henry wasn't even playing too well. They were splitting snaps with him and Dion Lewis and everything. Now you look at the offense, Tannehill is an absolute beast of a thrower. You still have the leading rusher, the NFL's rushing champion in Derrick Henry. And now you have another receiver in A.J. Brown who's going to take over that number one role, and teams are going to worry about him. That leaves Corey Davis to be a better receiver because he's going to be going up against the lesser of the two corners. He's going to be able to have better matchups. He's got a tall frame. He's got speed. He's got athleticism. I mean, he went his full rookie year without catching a touchdown, So I think that nowadays he's going to be able to get a little bit more than that. People are kind of writing him off as a bust since he's came into the league, but I think now this year I'm very high on Corey Davis. I'm willing to die on this hill. I think Corey Davis is going to have the best year of his career this year with Tannehill there, and now with him not being the only weapon in Tennessee. And the final and last pick, unfortunately, is the hardest name, so I'm going to try my hardest here. And this is a little bit of a help from conversations I've had with my Vikings friends. I have a couple of them, 3 off the top of my head, but all right, we're going to try this. Ifedi Odenigbo. I think I was close. Something like that. But he's taken over for Everson Griffin, and I've heard good things about him. People are excited about him in Minnesota. They didn't draft anybody to replace his position in Minnesota, so unless they sign Everson Griffin back to like a cheap, team-friendly deal just because he's not getting any market value right now, I think Odenigbo is going to be an absolute beast. I mean, when you look at what he can do, you look at his frame and what this defense has, this defense is always going to be very good. That's really what Minnesota prides himself on, is being defensively just sound. And, this team is good at building solid defensive line. Linval Joseph, when he went to Minnesota, wasn't the best defensive tackle. Other teams didn't sign him. But he went to Minnesota, became the best defensive tackle, arguably, in the National Football League, and just got a big payday to move on. And then you look at where, Danielle Hunter came in. He wasn't supposed to be this beast of a defensive end. Now he's one of the best in the league. Everson Griffin, one of the best in the league, wasn't supposed to be. Odenigbo can be the next guy on that list of Minnesota Vikings player that should have just been solid and ended up being very good. So I think Odenigbo is posed for a breakout year, especially if he holds down that starting role for the rest of the season. But that is going to be it for me. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Of course, if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe if you are new. Let me know what your team is in the comment section below. And if you agree with my pick, if you disagree with my pick, let me know what your pick would be as well. Love to get involved in the comment section below. But like I said, if you did enjoy the video, please be sure to hit that like button. If you didn't, just refresh the page, check it out again. Let me know what you think a second time. And without further ado, that is going to be it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one.